Okay, so to continue our coverage over the Ultimates, we do pick up with Volume 2. Now, Volume 2 does pick up a couple of days after the ending to Volume 1. Now, when it came to Volume 1, we had saw Bruce Banner take the new version of the Hulk serum, which of course turned him into the Hulk once again. Now, once he was the Hulk, he went on a rampage, killing off hundreds of people in Manhattan. Now, the reason why he had taken the new serum is because he wanted to give the Ultimates something to fight. Let me explain. You see, when it came to the American government, Nick Fury, and also S.H.I.E.L.D., they were the ones who had put together this superhero team as a way to protect the country, but to also go after super villains. But here's the problem. You see, you had the people of America begin to question the American government in the idea of, do we actually need a superhero team to protect the entire country? Now, the concerns of the people really showed once word got out that the American government has spent $25 billion on this one project. Just this one project. And for a lot of people, they felt like that money could have been used in other things the country currently needs. And so when it came to Bruce Banner, he felt like, okay, you know what? If I turn into the Hulk, I know that Nick Fury will send in the Ultimates to stop me. And once they do stop me, the world can see that yes, we do need a superhero team for different kinds of situations like this one. And so at the end of Volume 1, we did see the Ultimates being able to stop the Hulk. And Bruce was right, because now you have the people of America happy about the idea they do have a superhero team to handle those kinds of situations to protect the country. Now, what really did help out the Ultimates was Betty Ross. You see, Betty Ross is the PR person for the Ultimates. She was able to make sure that word did not get out that Bruce Banner was the Hulk, which honestly is a great thing, because if the American people had found out that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s own scientists had taken a serum to turn into the Hulk to give the Ultimates a reason to fight, it's going to look bad for the American government, for S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury, and almost anybody else who is involved with the Ultimate Project. Now, here's the thing, because now Bruce is locked away deep inside the base of the Ultimates. Now, once Bruce finds out that, hey, the world does not know that he was the Hulk, he believes that he can leave, because the last time he turned into the Hulk, they were able to cure him, to get rid of the Hulk persona. But because he had taken a new version of the Hulk serum, well, now him and the Hulk are permanently bonded to one another. And so S.H.I.E.L.D., the American government, and Nick Fury, they're very concerned about the possibility of him turning into the Hulk once again. And to make sure that he can't, he has to stay locked away forever. But now I want to shift our focus over to Steve Rogers, who is currently going out of his way to show respect to different families who may have lost a loved one in the Hulk incident. Now, while doing that, he runs into Bucky and Gale. Now remember, Gale and Steve dated back in the 1940s, but after he had disappeared in 1945, Gale married Bucky. But either way, the last time Steve tried to see Gale, she did not want to see him at all, because she did not want him to see her as an old lady. But now she is okay seeing Steve, and it's kind of great to see Steve being able to have some friends from his past. But while you had the three characters trying to make plans with one another, you have Nick Fury walk over to Steve and say, hey, we have another problem we have to talk about. And that other situation is the Wasp, because we have learned back in Volume 1 that Hank Pym is an abusive husband. You see, back in Volume 1, he felt embarrassed about what happened in the Hulk battle, because he was the only team member who was easily taken out by the Hulk. The rest of the team was able to hold their own and work together to take down the Hulk. And so because of that, he was very embarrassed and felt like everyone wants him off the team. Everyone is making fun of him. And so when it came to his conversation with the Wasp on the previous night, he felt like she was also making fun of him. And so he attacked her, beat down on her, and did so many different horrible things to her that now she is in the hospital. Now, we also learned from Betty Ross in this section is that that was not the first time that Hank has beaten the Wasp. Apparently back in college, when Betty was the Wasp's roommate, she has seen Hank attack her so many times. And the question is right now, why did she keep going back to him? But no one has the answer for that question. And this is Betty telling both Tony and Steve about the past. And the entire time you have Steve showing that he is very upset with Hank and he wants to find Hank right now. Now we jump back over to Nick Fury, and this is where we learn that Nick Fury has two Ultimates teams. You see the first one, Steve Rogers, Giant Man, the Wasp, and Iron Man, and even Thor, that's the public team. That's the one the public knows about. But he has another team, a Black Ops team, that no one knows about, and that would be Black Widow, Hawkeye, and two other characters who are supposedly mutants. And those characters go around the world to handle different kinds of missions without the world actually knowing. And we see that Black Widow and Hawkeye are about to go on a mission right now. But before you have Black Widow being able to give us more information, you have Steve wonder, where in the world is Steve Rogers? And we see Steve Rogers in the computer room using all the different satellites available to locate Hank Pym. Because like I said earlier, Steve wants to pay Hank a visit. And when I say pay him a visit, I mean Steve wants to beat the living you-know-what out of Hank. But now we are going to shift our focus back over to Black Widow and also Hawkeye. Now, when it comes to Black Widow and Hawkeye, like I said earlier, they're part of the Black Ops division for S.H.I.E.L.D. And they're currently on a mission with one another, but they're also working alongside with an army of soldiers who work for S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. Now, you have everyone about to attack this office building, but I really do like this section a lot because it really shows that Black Widow and Hawkeye are best friends. Now, if you have read every single Ultimate story, you already know that even though Black Widow and Hawkeye are best friends in this storyline, well, in Ultimates 2, that goes completely out the window. But either way, you do have Black Widow and Hawkeye and the soldiers being able to attack this office building, killing off every single person inside the building. Now, you're probably wondering, hey, Fresh, why are they doing that for? Well, you see, every single person belongs to a hidden organization that Steve Rogers was fighting back in 1945. And this is going to be very important for the rest of the chapters for this volume. But either way, you do have Black Widow and Hawkeye and their soldiers being able to take down every single person just like that. But then you have Hawkeye and Black Widow head back over to the main base of the Ultimates, where they are introduced to the rest of the team, the public team. And we kind of find out that they have been promoted to the public team. So Black Widow and Hawkeye will now be fighting alongside with Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Giant Man, and also the Wasp. Now, I did say earlier there were two other members who were part of the Black Ops team, and we kind of find out it was Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch. But they're going to stay on the Black Ops team for a lot of different reasons. One, because they're mutants. Around this time in Ultimate Marvel, mutants were not really loved at the moment. And two, Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch are children of Magneto. And when it comes to Magneto, he was a well-known bad guy in the Ultimate Marvel Universe who had actually kidnapped the president's daughter in an earlier Ultimate X-Men storyline. And so it's possibly best to keep those two on the Black Ops team and not tell the world they're part of the Ultimates. Now, when it comes to Nick, he tells us this meeting is not done just yet because he has a dark secret to share about the Earth. You see, when it comes to the Ultimates, they may believe that the Earth is only home to the human race. But you have Nick say no. There's also 11 different alien races on Earth, and one of them is the Chitauri, and they have been trying to take over the Earth ever since the 1700s because they had the ability to shapeshift, and they have been using that ability as a way to work themselves into different governments around the world. They want to get rid of the human race and take over the Earth. And matter of fact, they almost achieved that goal back in the 1940s. World War II. They were working alongside with Hitler and the Nazis, but they were stopped by Steve Rogers, Captain America. Now, when it comes to Nick, he tells us that once the war had ended, the world believed that they were gone because no one could find any of them anymore, just dead bodies across the world. Until 2 years ago, where they kept finding more and more of them popping up left and right across the world. But when it came to that office building, every single person in that building that Black Widow and Hawkeye had killed were all Chitauri. And here's the thing. They were trying to plan another attack on America to take over America, but in different kinds of ways. And so when it comes to Nick, he says, listen, the Ultimate's main goal right now is to find their leader, but to also kill off the last few members of the Chitauri to save the Earth. But then you have Nick wonder again, hey, wait a second, where is Steve Rogers at? And somebody calls him up. But someone calls up Nick to tell Nick, hey, we found Steve. Steve is currently in Chicago. Now, Nick is wondering why in the world is Steve in Chicago? And this person tells Nick, oh, well, Steve Rogers told us that you gave him a new assignment to overlook Hank Pym's arrest. And so he is currently in Chicago with a team who is about to go in and arrest Hank Pym, who's also in Chicago. Now, once you have Nick sit there and kind of think things through, he realized what Steve is about to do. And he tells everyone, hey, we need to get to Chicago right now because Captain America is about to beat down on Hank Pym for what he did to the Wasp. And so as we dive into the 9th issue of Ultimates, we pick up with Steve Rogers confronting Hank Pym. Now, let me just say this. You have Steve Rogers just getting straight to it like, hey, I want to talk to you outside right now. Leave the bar so we can talk. But my idea of talking is really more me kicking your butt because how dare you put your hands on your wife. Now, when it comes to Hank Pym, at first, he is trying his best to make different kinds of excuses to kind of say why he hit Janet, how it's okay for what he had done. But for Steve, no, he wants to beat down on Hank Pym. Matter of fact, he wants a challenge, and he tells Hank, go ahead and change. Turn to Giant Man. I want to give you a fair fight. Let's see if you are able to take me down. And you didn't have Hank turn into Giant Man. And you have the two characters fight. But it's really more of Steve being able to take down Giant Man no matter what. Now, after doing that, it's kind of funny because after you have Steve being able to take down Giant Man, you have a bunch of soldiers arrive saying, hey, Nick said you have to step down, like you were not allowed to beat down on Hank. But it's kind of like, y'all too late. Hank has got his butt whooped, literally got his butt whooped by Steve Rogers. Now, I kind of want to talk about Betty Ross for a brief moment to kind of show you guys why I do not like her character at all in the Ultimate Marvel Universe. Not until she becomes She-Hulk, and even then it's still somewhat annoying. But when it comes to Betty Ross, back in Volume 1, we saw that she was always talking down to Bruce Banner. And the reason why, because after Bruce had turned into the Hulk the first time back in Ultimate Marvel Team Up number 2, it caused a lot of problems for her and Bruce's relationship. And it led to her leaving him behind. Now, as we know, when it came to the last volume, Bruce took the serum to kind of show the world that the world needed the Ultimates, but there was another reason why. Because of Betty. Once Bruce heard that Betty was going out on dates with other men, it literally caused him to take the serum to hopefully show it could possibly work, but to also get her back. And so when it comes to Betty, she's kind of like, I like the idea that Bruce went to extreme limits to hopefully get me back. And so now she's falling back in love with Bruce all over again. Honestly, crazy as hell. But then we have to go check in on Steve Rogers. And this is going to be an awkward moment for the character because he's going out of his way to check in on the Wasp to see how her recovery is going. Except when he walks into her room, she expressed that she is very angry in the idea that he has stepped into her and Hank's business because she believes that nobody else has the right to be part of her and her husband's business. Yes, she did get abused by him, but it's no one else's business at all. But she also believes that it is Steve trying to make a move on her, trying to get with her. Now, you could say that he was trying to do that, but at the same time, it's Steve saying, I'm trying to look out for you because you were being abused by Hank Pym. Either way, she no longer wants to be on the Ultimates, but she also no longer wants to talk to Steve Rogers at all. And she was one of the first few people who tried to become his friend back in Volume 1. But Steve Rogers has no choice but to go ahead and move on with his day. And the reason why, because we see Nick Fury, Black Widow, really most of the Ultimates about to go on their next mission. They're about to go after the Chitauri group to hopefully bring them down once and for all. But then we get a flashback. Now this flashback does take place back in 1944, where we pick up with Steve Rogers being Captain America, but fighting against another character known as Kleiser. And they are currently fighting on top of a train. Now, when it comes to Kleiser, he is a Chitauri, and matter of fact, he is the leader of the group, but apparently he has been working alongside with Hitler and the Nazis to finish a nuclear device. Now here's the thing, on that train is the last part needed to finish the nuclear device. And so when it comes to Steve Rogers, his main goal is to make sure they don't get that last part. Now for Kleiser, he believed that Steve Rogers was trying to hijack the train. But when it comes to Steve, he's all like, no, I'm not trying to hijack it. I'm just trying to blow it up to most definitely make sure you guys do not get this last part needed. And so you have Steve jump off the train and the train explodes. And we're left to believe that Kleiser had died alongside with the train. But then we pick up with Steve Rogers arriving at a meeting. Now this meeting does take place days before the last mission that Steve was a part of when it came to World War II. The same mission we saw Steve going out of his way to stop the rocket that the Nazis were trying to use as a way to attack the United States. The same mission where it led to him falling to the bottom of the ocean and then being frozen in time. Now, when it comes to this meeting, it's really him just gathering all the different kinds of information we already know about, but he needs for that mission. But one piece of information is really important for us as the readers, because you have Steve as the higher ups. Hey, I heard that Kleiser is alive again, that he was seen around the world. And let's not forget, In the last section, we saw Kleiser get blown up alongside with the train, but apparently he didn't die. But unfortunately, the higher-ups tell Steve, we don't have any hard evidence to prove that Kleiser is alive. We do feel like he is, and we do feel like he's still trying to find different ways to help out the Nazis. But now we have to jump back over to the present day, where we pick up with Steve Rogers and the Ultimates and also Nick on their way over to what they believe is the home base for the Chitauri. Now you have Steve express the idea that he's very worried about not being able to go back home again, because the last time it was a big mission, he fell to the bottom of the ocean and he froze in time until the Ultimates found him. He's very afraid of the idea of that happening once again. But you have Nick say no, it's not going to happen. And the reason why, because one, they have the Ultimates working alongside with them, but also there is an entire army of SHIELD agents helping them out to make sure the mission goes well. But now we have to jump over to the Wasp. Now here's the thing, the Wasp is in the hospital, but the hospital is actually part of the home base of the Ultimates. Now when it comes to the Wasp, she was trying to call for the nurse to bring her a cup of water, but no nurse was actually answering her call. And so she decided to go out of her way to find some cup to get some water, except she didn't find some nurses, and she's now wondering why in the world they did not hear her call. Why were they not trying to help her? Now you do have the nurses say, hey, sorry, we're busy, but you need to rest. So let us walk you back to your bed. But unfortunately, these nurses are not really nurses. They're actually Chitauris who had used their ability to shapeshift to disguise themselves as nurses, and they are trying to clear house of the home base of the Ultimates. And right now the Wasp is their next target. Now she was able to realize that this is some kind of ambush or some kind of trap. Either way, she realized she has to escape and get the word out to Nick Fury and the rest of the Ultimates that the home base has been taken over by the Chitauri. And this is where things get crazy, y'all, because now we pick up with the Ultimates and Nick Fury arriving to the island they believe to be the home base for the Chitauri, except when they do arrive, Thor got there hours ago, and he says, listen, I walked around the place to check it out, and I realized something. No one has been here for weeks. This place has been completely abandoned for most likely a month or two. Now for Nick, he cannot believe that. And the reason why, because he got his intel from the psychic division. And usually they're not wrong. But you have Iron Man confirm what Thor is saying, like, hey, this place does seem abandoned. Now while you have the Ultimates talking, you have the Wasp back at the home base of the Ultimates trying to call out to them saying, hey, you guys are walking into a trap. They're right now trying to take over the entire home base. Now here's the thing, because out of nowhere somebody begins to talk to the Wasp, and we come to find out from the guy who was talking to the Wasp through the loudspeaker that apparently the psychic division of SHIELD has been taken over by the Chitauri. They used their ability to shapeshift as a way to work themselves into the SHIELD organization. And for a while, they have been feeding Nick false information. And that is really huge, because right now the Ultimates and Nick are on an abandoned island, not knowing that it was actually a trap, because on that island there is a bomb powerful enough to wipe out the island completely, to wipe out every single member of the Ultimates or SHIELD agents who is currently there at the moment, to give them a big victory over SHIELD. But you didn't come to find out the person who is talking to the Wasp is Kleiser. He never did die back in World War II, and he has been working from the shadows to work up to this moment right here, to get rid of SHIELD, but to then try to take over the world. And as soon as the Wasp realizes what Kleiser is talking about, and she tries to inform Nick, the bomb goes off, and we're left to believe that all the Ultimates who were there on the island all those different SHIELD agents who were also on the island have all been killed off. And so now we dive into the next chapter, where we pick up with Kleiser feeling very excited about the idea that he was able to win. He got rid of the Ultimates. He's about to capture the Wasp. All those different soldiers who were fighting alongside with the Ultimates were also wiped out. But at the same time, he wants to make sure that he did actually win. And so he does tell everyone working under him, hey, I want you to get all the different kinds of confirmation that you are able to get to confirm that the Ultimates have been wiped out, that the soldiers have been wiped out, that Nick Fury has been wiped out. Now, when it comes to Kleiser, he does give us a tad bit more information about the Chitauri by saying, hey, listen, Nick Fury was wrong about us. Like, yes, our main goal is to take over the Earth, but we are not trying to wipe out the human race. Instead, we want you guys to fall in line. Their main goal is to take away the free will of the human race. Let me explain why. You see, when it comes to the Chitauri, they go around the universe conquering different planets, but they don't kill off the races those belong to those planets. Instead, they just take away those people's free will to make them fall in line with their ideals. And so when it comes to Chitauri, their main goal is to make sure the human race falls in line. They have been doing this for years on years across the universe. Now, yes, they have made a lot of enemies, but they are a huge empire that rules a huge chunk of the universe. And their main goal is to add the Earth to their empire. But then you have Kleiser mention one more very important piece of information, the idea of how the Chitauri conquers the different planets across the universe. You see, usually they work behind the scenes. They love the idea of pulling off secret invasions, but that is a huge problem here. And let me explain why. Because right after he tells the Wasp that you didn't have all these different spaceships arrive on Earth across the entire planet, this is the rest of the Chitauri that Kleiser was talking about. But now they are announcing their presence to the entire world. And that ticks off Kleiser a lot because usually they don't work like that. And so he's wondering, hey guys, why are y'all here? But then you have a higher up tell Kleiser the reason why we are here, because while you've been on Earth, the rest of us have been losing the war against our enemies. We have lost planets across the universe that we used to rule over, and now we are trying to escape into another dimension. And so they came here to tell Kleiser, we have no choice but to go ahead and retreat, which means we have to go ahead and blow up this planet to make sure our enemies cannot follow us into our new home. And so in 45 minutes, we are going to use a bomb to blow up the Earth. But before the Chitauri is able to pull that off, you didn't have someone contact Kleiser to say, hey, listen, we are picking up something and we have no idea what in the world it could possibly be. And then out of nowhere, the Ultimates arrive. Every single member of the Ultimates, plus some of the soldiers who were near the Ultimates, were saved by Thor, and then they were teleported back over to the main base of the Ultimates. And so now you have the Ultimates getting ready to go to war against Kleiser and also the Chitauri race, who is trying to blow up the Earth. And Steve Rogers is very down with the idea of trying to stop Kleiser once again. And this leads into the rematch between Captain America and also Kleiser. Now, while you have Steve fighting against Kleiser, you have Iron Man and Thor going out of their way to attack all the different spaceships that had arrived on Earth. And you have the rest of the Ultimates just fighting against the rest of the alien invasion. But now I want to kind of focus on Steve Rogers, because this is his moment. It's him showing the world that, one, he is a great leader, but he's trying to make sure that this time Kleiser cannot come back down the road to cause more problems for the people of Earth. His main goal is to try to kill off Kleiser. Now, here's the thing. Kleiser is still a great opponent for Steve Rogers. They are able to go toe-to-toe for a few pages. When it comes to Steve Rogers, though, he always has backup plans on backup plans to actually help him win certain situations, like this one. Now, before we are able to dive into his backup plan, we have to shift our focus over to Black Widow and the Wasp, who is trying to find a way to shut down the bomb that could possibly blow up the entire planet. Now, when it comes to our two heroes, they are going out of their way to grab different scientists who do belong to the Chitauri race. But the problem is, these scientists rather die than actually help out the human race. But on top of that, all the different instruction manuals is written in the language of the Chitauri. And so unfortunately, the two ladies are having a hard time understanding how to dismantle the bomb before it blows up. But now we begin to learn the next part to Steve Rogers' plan, and that would be the Incredible Hulk. Yes, you heard that right. You see, when it comes to Steve Rogers, he realized the Hulk can give the Ultimates an edge in winning this battle, especially with the idea that the Hulk will kill almost anyone who is standing in his way. And right now, there are a lot of Chitauri standing in his way. Now, when it comes to the Hulk, the only thing he wants is Betty Ross. And so when it comes to Steve Rogers, he can use that as a way to control the Hulk. Now, when it comes to Bruce, he's having a hard time turning into the Hulk at first. And the reason why, because all the drugs they have put inside his body. But they realize there is one other way to make sure he'll turn into the Hulk. And so you have the soldiers who are currently containing Bruce Banner and throw him right out of the helicopter to have him fall to his death, but hoping that he'll change into the Hulk before he hits the ground. Now, when it comes to Steve Rogers, this is hilarious. You have Steve Rogers tell the Hulk that Kleiser has been talking about doing some dirty things to Betty Ross. And when it comes to the Hulk, that is not okay at all. And so you have the Hulk go out of his way to beat down on Kleiser. Now, once you have the Hulk being able to kill off Kleiser, you then have Steve Rogers reappear one more time, telling the Hulk, hey, all those different aircrafts in the air, they had start calling you different names, some very horrible names. And you should go out of your way to teach them a lesson that you are the best thing on the earth. And you have the Hulk say, yeah, you're right. And the Hulk began to smash all the different aircrafts that belong to the Chitauri. Now, we got to shift our focus back over to that bomb that's about to go off. Because you have Black Widow and the Wasp going out of their way to call almost any scientist who could possibly shut down the bomb. The problem is, all those different scientists, they rather spend time with their family before trying to defuse a bomb. They believe that this could be the final moments for the Earth. But then you have the Black Widow remember, wait a second. When it comes to the Ultimates, there's one person on the team who's great with technology, and that would be Iron Man. Now, when it comes to Iron Man, at first, it seems like what he is going to do is just take the bomb and take it into space, sacrifice himself to save the entire world. Except you have Tony say, no, there is no way I am going to give up my life to save the entire world. I'm going to use Thor, because Thor has the ability to teleport things almost anywhere else in the universe. Now, we have to remember, when it comes to the Ultimate Marvel Universe, you were left to believe that it was our world. The big question was, what would happen if heroes appeared in our world? That was the ultimate Marvel universe. And so when it comes to most of the people in this universe, they don't believe that Thor is actually a god. They believe that every single piece of his outfit is just some kind of gadget. And so when it comes to Black Widow, she's kind of like, wait a second. You believe that Thor is going to have the ability to teleport the bomb somewhere else in the universe? And for her, it's all like, no. Most likely, he is going to teleport the bomb into Canada or Mexico. But either way, the world is doomed. Now, you have Thor show her, no, I am the Thunder Guard. And he does teleport the bomb somewhere else, somewhere near Asgard. So once it does blow up, the Earth will no longer be affected. And with our heroes being able to give the Hulk a serum to turn him back into Bruce Banner and also take out the last few members of the Chitauri, the day is now officially saved. And so before we wrap up today's video, there are a couple things I do want to talk about. So first, I want to talk about the idea that you now have the Ultimates being celebrated across the entire world, because thanks to the Ultimates, the world did not blow up. But now, the second thing I do want to focus on is the Wasp. Because here's the thing, when it comes to the Wasp, she's at a salon, but she gets a phone call from Hank Pym. Is Hank Pym and her officially breaking up with one another? She is officially done with Hank Pym and his abusive ways. But we kind of find out later on that night, she is beginning to get with Steve Rogers. Those two characters are now becoming a couple. And that really wraps up Ultimates Volume 2. And so now we can begin our coverage over Ultimates 2 Volume 1. Which for me personally, I love Ultimates 2 out of the trilogy of the Ultimates, because Ultimates 2 was one heck of a storyline. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.